You are about to witness history in the making.
Hi guys, welcome to a little special podcast this time because by the time you're hearing this I'll be packing my bags to go on holiday. So what we've decided to do is to do our top 5 horror movies. And as usual, Haydn, how you doing?
I'm not too bad, thanks Steve. And I think that obviously the fact that we're doing horror movies, the gremlins are already in on this podcast, aren't they?
How long has it taken? Half an hour to start this gut?
It has, yes, because you couldn't hear me, and then it was my system was recording you rather than me, and it's been a bit of a nightmare. But
So-
we're going now.
Yeah. So before I start giving you my list, I've gone down a sort of a classic route. So when I do a top 5, sometimes I should put other films in there, but I think you can't do a top 5 really with everything because you're going to leave something out. Do you know what I mean?
I think the thing is with horror, it's one of those genres where there are so many good examples of the genre. It's very difficult to tie it down. So I did a list of about 20
Right.
that I thought, that were in there. And I think I probably went for ones that you deliberately didn't go for anyway, or that I thought you wouldn't go for. But also I just tried to keep like a single one from each sort of like single variation of, every sub-genre of horror, as it were.
Well, I probably haven't because if we go to some shout-outs later, I've got some from 78 to 84 to 1980 to 81 to 82, 76.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? And
Yeah.
we could have done a top 10, but we ain't got all night.
No.
Because this is supposed to be a short podcast as a filler.
Yeah, it's a special this week.
So, okay, so I'll tell you what, even though this is my choice this time, because last when we did the sort of science fiction one last time, didn't we? So
Yeah.
I'll let you start.
Okay. Right, I'm going to go in order of which ones I think are my favourite horror movies. And
Yeah, we're number 5 then, yeah?
yeah, and I would say that some of you might not agree that some of these are horror movies, but I have checked and they are classified as horror movies.
You sure they're not kung fu movies?
Actually, I think that Nikki very nicely sorted out that for us by the definition of the subgenre of science fiction for Kung Fu, which actually completely described The Matrix without saying The Matrix, but we won't go into that.
No, I'm not ready for an argument now.
No, we're not, but I'll point you in the direction of that Wikipedia page which explains exactly what The Matrix is without saying Neo or The Matrix. Anyway, so my first one in this is a pretty pure horror, but not like, monsters, but it is about evil, and that is Omen 3, The Final Conflict, the 1981 movie with Sam Neill.
Okay, because when you read your list to me earlier, I didn't know which order they were going to be in. But yeah, no, that's fine.
Yeah. So I know it's not probably the most classic out of the Omen movies or whatever. I know it doesn't have people heads being decapitated by flying sheets of glass or anything like that. I just really enjoyed this movie. I know that it's got a bit of a weak ending. Although I can't really recall it that much because I would say it's probably 25 years since I've watched this, but I do have fond memories of it because I watched it a lot.
The way that some of my movies I'm not going to spoil because I want people to maybe to look them up, especially one of them. But with this one, with the daggers of Medigo that eventually get into Damien, and he's on that concrete plinth in this part of an old church, isn't he?
Yeah.
And you get the choral. I mean, don't get me wrong, because Jerry Goldsmith does all the scores brilliantly, and I won't say a bad thing about him because he's brilliant. But when you get the sort of it's effigy image of either Jesus or God or whatever you want to call it, and it just gives it all this choral sort of music. I just thought it just sucked a little bit for the end of the films. I mean, the books did carry on after that.
Yeah.
Because there is a fourth book where the reporter that he was having a relationship with does spawn a child. So this story carries on.
Yes.
But from this point, I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, I do love all the original three Haydn movies are brilliant. The first two are my real favourites out of the three, and it's nice. I think this might. I don't know if this is one of Damien. This was one of Sam Neill's first movies, and I'm not too sure in his filmography if it was or not.
No, and Sam Neill is no stranger to the world of horror either, because he also did Event Horizon, which I did toil with sticking in my list. It's not in my list, but it is one of, it's another great movie with Sam Neill, because I think he does do horror very well. But what I liked about this one was it sort of took the story further, but it put it into, like, the linking into all of the corruption and whatever, and the followers. I just like the movie.
Yeah, because you had the beginning of the film where you had obviously I remember this now very well, but you had somewhere, I don't know where it was, somewhere in the world they were digging for coal, and they got the conveyor belt going through as everyone's checking the stuff that's coming out that's going on the conveyor belt. Then someone sees one of the Modego daggers sticking out of there, and he breaks up and pulls it out, and then it goes into a pawn shop. And you got all this superb music as you sort of set this story up.
Yeah.
And even actually, Sam Neill does look like... He has that look for what Damien would look like at that age.
Yes. Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? With the way his hair was and everything. Because when you look at the guy that played him in Omen 2, there is a similarity, obviously with the age difference as well for the time of year it was set. Yeah,
exactly. It's just one of those films that sort of like ended that trilogy of movies quite nicely as far as I was concerned. I know that the ending sucked a little bit, but overall, it was a movie I really enjoyed.
So, was that the first Omen film you saw?
No, it was the third one.
That wasn't your first experience in the Omen movies then? You actually saw
No, I'd seen 1 and 2. I'd seen 1 and 2 because, what year was this? 1981. So when this came out, I was 10.
Right.
And I think by the time I was about 11 or 12...
They were on TV at that point,
They were on TV, yeah. Although the first Omens were. So I'd have been about probably 13 or 14 when I saw this.
Mm.
And it was just my favourite one out of all of all three.
Yeah.
I like the fact that it was Damien as an adult.
Yeah, I mean I think that was the idea with the three films, that we had three different eras of his childhood leading up to what was supposedly be Satan's glory, or in his case his downfall.
Mm.
But it's been told in many different ways since then, in different movies and of Armageddon and everything else. But good start. I like that one. Yeah, very good.
Yeah. So what's yours?
So my one in reverse. So I've gone for a film in 1960, and I've gone for Psycho. Now,
good film.
This film sticks with me very much from a long time ago. I can't remember the first time I saw it. I can't even remember when I saw it. Now, I'm assuming it would have been on TV, but I remember buying the VHS of it when it first came out on VHS. So that would have been sort of 80s. And I was already a fan of Hitchcock anyway, but this film has some sort of resonance of terror, and even being a black and white movie, it makes it more so.
Yeah, it adds to the
suspense of it.
To the suspense of it, yeah.
And obviously with Anthony Perkins' portrayal, and how he comes across so cold and calculated, and even getting to look, and I'm looking at a screen of him looking at me now at the end of the movie when he's sitting there in the cops' corridor with a blanket over him, and he's got that sort of mad look in his face. And it just really works well. And obviously we had obviously from this film we had the famous shower scene that's been satirized and over the years, and
it's been it's cemented itself into the pop culture sort of like lexicon, hasn't it?
It has, because it was funny. Just a bit while I was waiting for you to come on, I'd put a little bit of National Lampoon's Vacation on.
Yeah.
And I hadn't watched the first one for donkeys, and I was in that sort of holiday mood, of course. And you got Chevy Chase, you got Beverly D'Angelo naked in the shower, having doing what she needs to do, and he comes in there with a banana, giving it the violin noise of how that came across from Bernard Herrmann, and he said, and she sort of shrieks, and there she's standing naked, and he's still there rapping there with a banana around her face, But yeah, it's a very slow. I suppose it's a very slow starting movie because you don't know where it's going to go. Could you expect this to be a story regarding someone that's stolen all this money, and she chose this hotel off the roadside and probably regretted it now.
Yeah, well, you would do, wouldn't you? But evidently, Paramount Pictures, they didn't give Hitchcock a very big budget for this movie because they just didn't like the source material, and they deferred most of the box office take-ins to Hitchcock, and when it became a big hit, it made him a fortune.
It's funny because, the house on the hill that was on the lot,
yeah,
that wasn't actually fully built. From the angle that the shot was taken, looking at the house, was the only piece that was there. And it wasn't until later on in the years when Universal had their lot for the tours and that they built the rest of the house.
Yeah.
So it was sort of half built, but it was built to what they needed to see for the shot that Hitchcock was making from seeing what you thought was Mother having a go at him at the window.
Yeah, but Anthony Perkins played Norman Bates. he was synonymous with that role.
Oh God, yeah, and even when it came to the second one as well.
Yeah,
but there's just so many little things about this movie.
But it's also spurred off Bates Motel open for business and stuff like that, hasn't it?
Well, yeah, and I never wanted to watch that.
Yeah,
I didn't think it was right, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
Ironically, though, what Janet Leigh, who's in this, obviously, and she is playing Marion Crane, and that's Jamie Lee Curtis's mum.
Mm.
And it's ironic that it took a while before these two would be together when John Carpenter did The Fog, and they actually acted together in that movie, which I think was the first time they played together, sort of thing. But yeah, it's a wonderful movie. I say the score has something that I think no other horror movie at the time would put together to give you the chills. And I think this is one of the first movies that, if you went to see it when it came out back in September 1960, I think it was, for the UK.
Yeah.
They lock the doors when the screening starts. You're not allowed in because they don't want to spoil the atmosphere and how that's going to go. So yeah, outstanding for me, and it's one I'll always come back to watch.
Yeah, and it's one that I've not really watched many times, but do enjoy it. As a matter of fact, I'm not a big Hitchcock fan, but I would say it's probably...
Really?
Yeah, I would say it's probably one of my, if not the top, it's in the top 3 Hitchcock movies, I think, for me.
Yeah. Because something I thought about the other day, and it only just come into my mind. Now, we all loved the Marvel movies, and we loved his little portrayal in each movie, that was Marvel, that was synonymously for himself, that was
Stan Lee,
yeah, in those. And what he was doing there for all those movies we've seen over the last 10 years now, Hitchcock was doing way before that in all his movies.
Yeah,
because he was doing walk-on parts of all sorts as well. Now maybe that's where he got the idea from. I don't know.
Maybe. But I think a lot of directors have done that in one way or another.
I don't know really. I've never actually Googled it to see, but it's just I always remember. I don't know which one it was now. I remember seeing Hitchcock there walking a load of dogs out of a sort of a shop inside and stuff like that. I don't know if it was the birds for that one. I'm not quite sure, but yeah, no, it's
Well, what you call it? Is he Jon Favreau? He plays Happy.
Yeah,
and he directs some of the Marvel movies.
Hmm.
So I just think it, and also one of the Russo brothers was in the scene on Endgame. He was the guy who was saying about how he'd gone on a date, and it was he didn't break down into tears until the soup. And they were talking like that.
Actually, another one that comes to mind was George Romero in Dawn of the Dead. He was in that. And also, actually, I think Tom Savini, who was doing the special effects for that movie, was one of the bikers that great gate crashed the mall in Dawn of the Dead. So,
Yeah.
But anyway, so what have you got for your fourth one?
My fourth one is going to be Alien.
Okay. Sci-fi horror this time.
Yeah, sci-fi horror. I would say it's probably the first time I'd ever seen a sci-fi horror. I think that the production values of the movie are absolutely fantastic and they still hold up today. It gave a very, I thought, well-balanced, well-thought-out vision of the future. It built up suspense absolutely fantastically. I think that the music and the sound was really good in the movie. I loved the fact that there was the sort of like infighting subterfuge that was going on as well, particularly with the android. What was it? Was it Bishop?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh no, Bishop was in. Bishop
No, I'm
was in the
thinking.
second
Yeah,
one.
I'm thinking of the
Alien
wrong one,
2.
aren't I? Yeah. I meant. What was his name? Ash.
Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah. Played by Ian Holm, wasn't it? So, I think, I just think, Ridley Scott, he created a masterpiece when he created Alien, and it spawned so many sequels. And to be fair, I think that Alien 3 and 4 get a rough deal. I know that they're not fantastic movies, but I still quite like those ones as well, because, they do keep some of the suspense in that, and introduce new things, new concepts, new ideas to the franchise as well. But I think that really Alien was a horror movie and Aliens was a war movie.
Well, it was an action movie, wasn't it? Yeah.
Yeah.
Because the alien was hardly seen in the original film, and that was the suspense part of it. You weren't to see much of it.
Yeah, and I also think that the other bit of masterpiece in terms of it was having the cat on the ship, Jones.
Jonesy.
Yeah. But I think that was a masterpiece because it just gave that extra bit of threat, which, it got Ripley to go after the cat before, escaping the Nostromo and trying to get away from the alien. So I just think that the whole thing, it was, incredibly good. You look at it now, it still stands up today.
Oh, I'm glad I picked up the 4K of that movie.
I was humming and hawing about picking up the 4K earlier this week because it's $9.99.
Is it really? Wow.
Yeah.
It's well worth picking up.
Yeah, it was $9.99 in HMV, and I was sort of like, shall I pick it up? I thought, no, I've got it on Blu-ray, and I don't watch it very often. It's how there's movies that you don't watch often, so that they're a bit of a treat.
Yeah, I can see your point there. Yeah,
to me, that's what Alien is. Because I don't want to over-egg it with that film. I think that there are some movies you want to see again, and will stand up to repetitive viewing, whereas I think Alien is something you've got to treat with a bit more respect.
Yeah, possibly. I probably can't remember how many times I've seen Alien now. Many times. And, it doesn't get boring.
No. And you think is it 40 years old?
It is 40 years old, yeah.
This year?
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
And how many films can you say about that are 40 years old?
I could say a few that are older. I could say one that's 50 years old and still stands up today.
Oh, yeah, and I've got,
2001.
Oh, yeah, that's right, yeah.
That's an absolute classic. And has elements of horror in it. Or, I think sometimes horror and drama, there's a fine line between them, isn't there? Like a suspenseful drama.
Well, then you've got thriller then as well, haven't you? But
yeah, but because I wouldn't say that 2001 was like a thriller. It's more like
it's pure sci-fi, really. I think.
Yeah, but it is sci-fi, but every sci-fi movie has elements of another genre in it, and I think that like 2001 is very much sort of like the thriller. the suspenseful drama rather in terms of what Hal's going to do.
Oh, maybe, yeah.
You know, but you could argue that could also be interpreted as horror, but I don't feel it is, because I don't feel that there's a malevolence to it. I just, you know, think it's flawed logic which takes it away from horror. To me, there has to be an evil intent for it to be horror. Do you know what I mean? I think that's probably where the line is between like that thriller, drama and horror sort of thing.
Well, if you're going to end up looking at Internet Movie Database, it might say pure sci-fi, plus it might say a couple of others, but, you know, I'm not in the mood for arguments tonight anyway. I'm just going to go along with it. Anyway.
So what's yours?
So we're going back to 1977. And I don't want to really spoil this film as much as I do want to talk about it, but this is one of the first movies that I got to love from Dario Argento, so from the Italian horror director.
Yeah. And
this is Suspiria, which of course has recently been remade, which I haven't had a chance to watch it. It's on Amazon Prime at the moment. But I do love this movie so much, and it has so much in it that I don't want it to. I don't think I want to watch the remake, because I don't want it to really taint this at all. I mean, this has a production value with so much colour, with brevity that is just screaming in your face. The way it's shot is very artistic, and for some people this is a pure masterpiece in itself, and for a lot of people it's their favourite Argento movie.
Yeah.
And what this is about is you have Jessica Harper playing this girl that's come from America to join this German ballet academy, and all these girls there, it all seems a bit odd, weary and sinister in itself. Mm-hmm. And basically you have got a load of murders going on which go back to a coven of witches, and that's all I'm going to say about it. I mean, if you want to check it out, do. I think it's fantastic. Again, with Dario Argento, Goblin do the music for this, and the music actually is so haunting, and the theme that repetitively plays through the film, it's genius. It really is one of my favourite pieces of music that Goblin have brought out for this sort of movie.
Yeah.
The blood, the colour, the way the murders happen, it is so repetitive to how Argento does his work. This film's got more women in it, so it might seem a little bit monogistic that from that point of view. The men don't look great in it, but all the women look lovely, and it's pure cinema in itself. And that, I've got the deepest respect for him, and I'm hearing rumours of other movies he's still around now, and he wants to put another movie together. And I've got quite a few of his, and I love them. They really are. They are something that's close to my heart now. But probably something you've never seen.
No, not at all.
No,
not at all. Not familiar with it. I have sort of, I've seen it obviously, but it's just not something, because horror's not my genre. It's not one that I particularly go out looking for stuff. I think growing up in the 80s with A Nightmare on Elm Street and all of that sort of stuff, I think I just ended up exhausting myself of the enjoyment of horror movies to a certain extent. Although, having said that, though, I have bought It this week. So, the new version of it.
I'm trying to get to go and see the sequel, part 2. It's out Friday today, isn't it? So I would have loved to have gone tonight, but due to the way that the whole week has been for me, if we had a record of this, I may have gone to see it. Whether or not I can go tomorrow night, I'm still going to see if I can put that out there, if I can get a showing. But I'm really looking forward to that film.
Yeah.
Have you seen it before? Have you seen it yet?
I've started watching a bit of it.
Yeah. And had you watched the original?
I had many years ago, but I couldn't remember very much of it. I remember the clown. I remember the gutters.
Do you remember John Boy, from the Waltons, being in it?
No, to be honest, but it is. I think this is the thing. How sometimes you just watch a film once
and it goes,
and then it goes, and then it just disappears out of your mind over time, and you've seen it, but you just can't remember anything about it. And this was one of those sort of stories. I just remember, the clown and that, and he was after kids and all of that. But I mean, even I know that would be a horror, But it's only a 15 horror.
Well, I know a lot of my movies are 18 certificate, I think, as watch. I mean, Psycho would have been 18 if that was around then.
Yeah.
But even though it creeped the hell out of my missus with the clown. She was not comfortable with that film at all.
But I think all of what you're saying there, it exemplifies the point I was making earlier on about the fact that there isn't a pure of anything, because everything's got sort of influences. So, like I was saying, I've just actually, while we've been talking, I've done a search on, is 2001 a horror movie? The vote's out on that one. I would say it isn't. I would say it has leanings towards that, but more in a drama. But I think, likewise, you're saying there, I think that, it's just, there's so many subgenres of everything, and it's either, sometimes the horror movies are like directly gorish, and sometimes horror movies are, more on the suspenseful and not showing you the gore deliberately, and there's all these sort of like, some films, some horrors just really aren't that tense because you know that they're going to come, things like,
well, the same
Hellraiser, I don't think are particularly tenseful. I think because I love the movie as well, but it's going to happen, and there are other ones that are more, more intriguing in terms of the way that they approach it.
Because that's like you got like sort of body horror, if I'm going to call it that. Yeah, with that sort of movie, the same way Videodrome is with, and if you're going to go like the Jigsaw movies, with the torture porn or whatever you want to call it, it's
Saw movies where people are lobbing off their limbs. Is it Saw?
Yeah.
Where they have to escape by chopping the limbs off and that.
All sorts of ideas. Yeah. There's great ideas in that. I love that franchise. I do like. But okay. Anyway, so what's your number 3?
Well, my number 3 is a John Carpenter movie. And one that we both like very much, and that is The Thing from 1982.
Yes, now, that easily could have been in my top 5, and it is a masterpiece in itself.
Yeah.
But that would have been too obvious to put it in, I think. I mean, my top 5 can change every week.
Yeah.
It's very different to say, this is my definitive top 5 movies. So,
well, I think if I asked you in an hour, you would have a different top 5 anyway. I think we all would, because there's just so many, because I think saying, Night of the Living Dead or something like that is too obvious.
And that's not even in my top 5.
Yeah, but
that is a shout out as such.
And I would say it'd be a shout out as well. But, or, any of the big sort of like name ones. But to me, this is something that is, again, it has that sci-fi genre link to it, but it is more horror, it's more suspenseful, but the other sort of link here is the whodunit sort of link as well, isn't it? And generating the distrust between the characters.
And what even the more horror you get is the solidarity and coldness and loneliness that you get out there on their own because they've got no help.
Yeah.
They only can rely on themselves, and they've got to rely on each other, but they don't trust each other. So you're relying on yourself to look after yourself against everyone else that's in the cast.
Yeah, exactly. And I think that the location of that movie being, is it in the Antarctic?
Yeah,
it is the Antarctic that it is. And, that just emphasises that remoteness and the lack of escape that people will, have of it, because there isn't an option to escape, really.
No. And the way the film ends, with them both talking to each other, thinking, is one of them the thing?
Yeah.
And that's how it finishes, and we don't know that.
But that's what I mean in terms of that, the sowing the distrust of each other.
Yeah.
Basically the thing, by being a shapeshifter, tears the group apart from the inside.
Mm.
Not figuratively, as a group of people trying to support themselves to survive this, because of its abilities, it can it can do that to the group.
Yeah. And it was a flop when it came out, believe it or not, but it wasn't in my eyes. And I don't remember it being a flop. I mean, I loved it and walked out of it and loved every minute of it, but it failed for John Carpenter, and his career took a little bit of a side turn from there onwards for a little bit,
You see, the year this came out, I was going into secondary school, so I was way too young for it initially. But for me, as long as I've been aware of this movie, I've been, this has been like an example of seminal sort of like sci-fi horror.
Yeah, but it was slated. Critics hated it, and people they were disgusted with it at a point,
Well, to be quite honest, the one thing that I have learned whenever I've want to watch a movie is never, ever listen to critics.
Oh, no, I never do. But the funny thing is, though, at the time, I don't remember. I mean, I remember reading Fangoria about it, and they were well praising the effects and everything else and what was going on with it. But I don't remember reading what hatred came from this film. But yeah, I mean, what's happened. This is the sort of film that's become a bit of a cult, and it's become more loved and loved over the years and matured, and hence brought it out to what it is now.
And then spawned a prequel.
What do you think of that? What's your thought on that quickly?
I think it links into the other movie quite well and sets it up, doesn't it?
Oh, it does, because it gives you the nod of how the axe would have been in the door, how the guy was frozen that sliced his wrists.
Yeah.
And obviously, literally, and this is not a spoiler for the end of the movie because it's the start of the thing. And you got the helicopter at the end, which is the very beginning of Carpenter's movie.
Mm.
But yeah, the sequel's okay. It gives a little bit of reminders of what I've enjoyed about the original film, but.
But, IMDb classify this as a horror mystery sci-fi.
Well, it's a mystery because you don't know who it is.
Yeah, exactly. But, again, it's what I said. There isn't a pure thing because it has these elements in it. Mm. But it's just a great movie. It's so enjoyable. John Carpenter, you can't beat him, can you? And it's got Kurt Russell in. What more would you want?
Yeah, that's it. Yeah, and rightly so.
Yeah.
Okay.
So what's yours?
So now we're moving forward to 1980.
Yeah.
And a Stanley Kubrick movie, which of course is The Shining.
Mm.
And again, the way this film was put together, I mean, the book is the book is massive as far as Stephen King's book's concerned. It's a big wedge on its own.
But it's also such a massive influence on pop culture, is this movie?
It is now, ironically, because, I mean, Stephen King didn't like this version. Mm. He hated it, and hence he made, I think he did another version of it at some point.
Well, I'm not up on Stephen King novels, but isn't there another movie coming out that ties into this one?
Yes, now that's coming out, I think it's later this year. And it's called, do you know what, I've just suddenly got, it's just whipped out of my head.
Yeah, it's whipped out of my head as well, but I was reading about
Dr.
this.
Death,
Yes.
Dr. Death, no.
Doctor Strange.
No.
It was Doctor something, wasn't it?
Yeah, because it was funny, I was talking about this movie to my stepdaughter, and she said, isn't it called Red Rum? No, that was Murder Backwards, was what that was spelled in The Shining. Mm. But it's, oh, God, I'm sorry, I'm going to have to Google this, just one sec. Dr. Sleep, thank you.
That's it, yeah.
Which has got Ewan McGregor.
Well, I was closer with Strange.
Yeah, but Doctor Strange was a Marvel movie. So we obviously got, in that, we've got Ewan McGregor playing the child much older.
Yeah.
That was in, just put that back in The Shining. And you can't forget the acting from Jack Nicholson in this.
No, Jack Nicholson made it.
I mean, if you've not seen it, and you probably have, and maybe some people haven't, but if you ever look at that clip of him psyching himself up for that scene with the axe,
yeah,
he's like he's a boxer going out to fight, and it's just incredible how he acts. This mild-mannered janitor, if we're going to call him at that, who's looking after a hotel, to suddenly start seeing ghosts and I wouldn't say possessed, but going off his rocker, shall we say. And the oddballness of Shirley Duvall playing his wife as well. And it's one of those films I saw when it came out, and it freaked me out. And it has that atmosphere again, even though there's not too much gore in this. There's a lot of blood from the lifts, obviously, that was used in the trailer. And you got the two twin girls that were murdered in the room. And ironically, now that a lot of people may not know of the movie The Shining, will have seen clips of it in Ready Player One.
Yes.
Where people might not even be aware of what movie that was, as much as they know of it, because in that film, he says, they went on a date to watch The Shining. And yeah, it's such an incredible horror movie for me.
I mean, it goes to prove not only did it appear in that, and I know this is more related to the book rather than the movie.
Yeah.
But even on Friends with Joy, he would put the book in the freezer, and then Rachel read it. So why is the book in the freezer? And then she started putting it in the freezer, if you remember. So and that was obviously 90s. But
I mean, this is certificated now as a 15.
Yeah, but it was a restricted movie back in the day.
It was, and as much as if you go down to it says viewer content advisory, Yeah, it's fantastic. It's. I am looking forward to seeing this in 4K as it comes out soon. I will pick up a copy of this because I don't actually own a copy at the moment. I've got it digitally, so
I would have thought that you would have owned this on disc.
I've owned it on VHS back in the day.
Yeah,
I owned it on DVD.
I think everybody's owned it on VHS at some point.
And the thing is, I'm so looking forward to seeing that 4K copy coming out. It might be. I think it's not going to be for another month, maybe. But I haven't pre-ordered it. I'll keep an eye out for when it comes out, and I will pick a copy up. But,
why not?
Anyway, so your number 2.
My number 2 came out last year, and it's A Quiet Place. So this is the post-apocalyptic world in which a family is forced to live in hiding in silence from monsters with ultra-sensitive hearing, directed by John Krasinski, and stars Emily Blunt and John Krasinski as a on screen as well as being real life married couple.
Yes, they are, aren't they?
Yeah. So this film, I just think it's a fantastic concept because, it's, to me, it's the audio version of, what was it? Was it Birdcage or Bird Game, whatever it was? The one where they had to put the blindfold on.
Oh, okay, yeah. I know
the Sandra Bullock movie. I can't remember what it was called now.
Yeah.
But it was like the audio version of this, and the extra threat for them is they are looking after the children as well, and obviously kids like making sound and making a noise.
Especially when they got a little toy and that toy, the battery's going on there, haven't they?
Well, that's the thing when they're crossing the bridge, and the kid drops his toy, and then it suddenly starts making a sound, and then everything starts moving around them, and and I just think it is quite a thought-provoking sort of movie. It's really it plays on that that fear about there is something there, something watching you all the time, sort of thing. I just think it's an incredibly well put together movie. It's a type of movie I would in no way ever be able to watch with my wife, because not only does she not like scary movies, but she wouldn't be able to keep quiet.
Well,
so
I saw this. I didn't see this in the cinema.
Yeah,
but if you did, I think some moviegoers would have been very quiet in this movie. I know, unfortunately, popcorn doesn't help.
No. But
I think it would have given the atmosphere it would have brought it across with the idea of the quiet being so quiet.
Yeah, and everybody who because I didn't go and see this at the cinema, I've only watched it on Blu-ray. But everybody who I have spoke to who went to the cinema said everyone was really deadly quiet.
Yeah.
And you could have heard a pin drop right throughout this whole movie. And there's probably only about 100 words of dialogue in the whole film.
And I don't think there's much of a score, is there?
No. It's like really, really quiet, but it's just that,
Must be cheap to make.
Well, they did do a good job of the special effects from what I remember of it as well. But no, I just really love the film. I love the whole concept of what they've done in the movie. I just think it is, a very clever sort of like twist on something that has gone before. And I think that, the film it's incredibly suspenseful in a sort of way, like you would get on Alan Wake or something like that. It builds the suspense up really, really well. And a lot of it is just by sort of like wide-eyed looks of the cast. And, facial expressions. There's a lot of that sort of, body language acting that is going on. And I just think it's a great movie.
Yeah, okay. Okay, that was your number 2, was it?
It was.
Okay, so my number 2 is a John Carpenter movie. Okay. And we're going back to 1978 to the first Halloween. And I debated whether to have this in here on this list.
I'm going to have to say that this is an obvious one.
Yes, it would be.
This is like a really...
If you know me...
I would say that this would be an obvious one in anyone's list because it is, well, it's Halloween.
It is. And, I mean...
It'd be like the only other one it could do that's more obvious would be A Nightmare on Elm Street if you're Poltergeist, if you were talking about horror movies.
I mean, if you don't know, Michael Myers escapes from a sanitarium to go back to Haddonfield, to where the original murders happened, from where he was put in the first place. And you've got these babysitters doing their bit during Halloween, and he goes around there having a good slashing good time with a nice big bread knife, I'd call it. I mean, it's spawned so many sequels, and we've still got 2 more to come, which will be coming out in the next 2 years. And luckily enough, John Carpenter is going to be involved with those as well. So it was cheap to make budget wise.
Yeah,
made an absolute fortune. If I scroll down, I don't know if I can see the budget here, if it's got it actually. Let's have a look. I don't actually say it, but the budget was pretty cheap. It made an absolute fortune as an independent movie the way it did. He did the score in 3 days. If I remember rightly on this one, it was about 3 or 4 days. And everything about this movie works. The suspense, you see the shape slowly moving towards you. You think you want to run as fast as you can, but he seems to get you as quick as you can run. He's still walking. Yeah, and it has that sort of mystery to what we call it's called the shape, which is played by Nick Castle, of course. Donald Pleasance being the man possessed on getting him back into a sanitarium of some kind because he knows how evil he is, and Halloween is a nice way for him to go around with a mask on and knowing who he is, even though as you and I know, and many of us who've seen this movie will know that was a Captain Kirk mask painted white.
Yeah, it was indeed.
Or was a William Shatner mask. And I've got one behind me as well, actually. So I finally did pick one up. So it's probably one of the this score in all its iterations is probably the most I've got in one little bunch, to be honest. With all the different Halloween movies that came out. And I've got 2 versions of Halloween 2018. And I've just pre-ordered, if you might have saw that, an expanded another album from Waxworks with John Carpenter doing an extra 30 minutes of music. Yeah. Which I've got pre-ordered actually as well. And that sold out on Waxworks within a day. So it just shows you the love that there is for Halloween from all these years. And it's one that even, I think, to be honest, I think I saw this on the TV the first time. I had seen it in the cinema. And it's one that it's imprinted in my head. It's one of those movies that won't go away. Okay.
Here's something for you as well, though. Do you know how much the movie cost to make?
No, it was dirt cheap. Was it something 200,000 maybe or something?
$325,000.
And it's made.
And cumulative worldwide gross 47 million.
There you go.
That's a heck of a return on investment.
It is, isn't it? And then you add all the spawns and the sequels that have come from that as well.
Oh yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So, yeah, I agree it's a great movie. great movie.
Yeah, some people are not too keen on the last one that came out. I mean, they decided to say, well, you watch Halloween 1 and then forget all the rest, and then we got this one 40 years later or whatever with Jamie Lee Curtis waiting for him to return, and she's getting ready with her weapons and everything else.
It's going to be like the supposed return of Alien, isn't it? Where it's going to be, we just keep 1 and 2 in mind and then forget about the rest.
Yeah, that's it.
And we'll also forget that Genesis ever happened on Terminator.
I'm actually still looking forward to the new one, actually, I must admit.
It does look quite good, but we'll have to wait and see. Having said that, though, it seems to take on board a lot of the things from Genesis as well, because, you know, the character who was, like, cybernetic.
Yeah.
But human at the same time. So it'll be interesting to see what that ends up being like.
Okay, so we're down to our number 1.
Yep.
What have you got?
I've got an uneventful man's life being disrupted by the zombie apocalypse. And it's 2004's Shaun of the Dead.
How did I know it was going to be that?
It had to be that, didn't it? It's my all-time favourite movie anyway, so... And it's a horror movie. So there we go. I don't like horror, but I love that film. And I know, obviously, it's, you know, for anybody who, like, really, really is into the horror movies would be going, and all of that, but it is still genuinely a horror movie.
Is it called a horror comedy, though?
It's a comedy horror. You know, it mixes genres, but when you look at the influences of, you know, like Night of the Living Dead and stuff like that on the movie.
But definitely Dawn of the Dead, because...
Dawn of the Dead. Because that is, well, the Winchester at the end of the movie, isn't it? You know,
but also if you don't know, and I do very well, but Goblin's score in Dawn of the Dead is used in Shaun of the Dead at the point of when they were opening the letterbox, and he says, "There's any zombies out there?" And he says, "Don't say the Z word." That music in the background was Goblin from Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah.
And it's a great piece of music. And yeah, it fits it so well. And they were paying homage to it, obviously, with that. But yeah, I think, I'm trying to think when zombies started to become popular again. Was it from Shaun of the Dead, maybe, onwards? Or was there one before it, maybe? I can't remember.
It was around about there, but... You know, it just builds up that picture of this hapless person. But I love the way that everything's happening around them and they don't notice it for ages.
Yeah.
You know, like the guy who's standing there and Sean's looking out of the shop looking at him, and then he disappears when the bus goes past. And the people who were like dropping down sort of like dead on the bus next to him and he doesn't notice. And then he gets up in the morning and he walks to the corner shop and he slips in some blood and he gets a cornetto, which is where it comes to the Cornetto trilogy.
Of course, yeah.
And then he walks back, you know, and then it's only when he gets back the watching the news, they've actually got real Sky News reporters reporting the news as they would on normal TV.
Yeah.
As well, which is a really nice touch. And then they realise that, you know, their flatmate is upstairs in the shower.
Yeah, and I mean, there is so many funny moments in that film, and little tags in other films as well. As much as they play on themselves with two sets of characters trying to get somewhere. Yeah. When they're at the back of the houses and they want to go over the fences to get to the Winchester, and then one of his I presume it was one of his old girlfriends, wasn't it?
It was actually from space.
She was in that. Yeah, she was in space. And then you had that group, which was the sort of opposite of their group.
Yeah, but it had Matt Lucas, and it also had Martin Freeman in there as well.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, so there a lot of very now famous sort of faces and names in there, and Simon Pegg and Nick Frost, they're just the perfect sort of like duo, aren't they?
It's a film you can if you ever like stick ITV 2 on sometimes, and Shaun of the Dead always pops on every now and then. I just leave it on sometimes, just like watching it from wherever it is in the film. I sometimes just sit and watch it as much as I've got it elsewhere somewhere. You're sort of fixated with it, I think.
Yeah, there is one bit if you not if you talk in different languages, but you know the bit where Sean's in the corner shop, which is tuned into a radio station playing a song from Indian movies, and the song stops as the newscaster begins to speak in Hindi, and it's when it's translated, it is people are waking up from their graves.
Yeah, because it's funny because you notice in the background the guy, you got the zombie, the guy that comes in their house for the first time, who looks like he's going to a wedding.
Yeah,
he's in the shop earlier looking for something to buy. Do you remember?
Yeah, he is.
You see him in the background, sort of thing, and
of course the other thing about this movie as well, which I really love, is I love Bill Nye, and you know he's been bitten and, and infected.
How many times over the years has your mum said, "Just run it under the tap, it'll be fine"?
Yeah, exactly. but not only that, the bit where they're taking John Chevanovsky or whatever his name is, his car. And then they go round to his, his mother's and his father's-in-law, and they're looking at escaping off to the Winchester, and Nick Frost is left in charge of the car while Simon Pegg goes in to see Philip and his mother to get them to come with him, and when he comes back, the car that they were in, which was like an old Renault, is wrapped round a tree.
They see sorry.
Well, sorry, we'll have to use Philip's car.
Yeah, because he's got a Jag. He's going, oh, look at that Jag,
But also the humour in that when they're coming up with a plan. So we'll go over, we'll collect Mum, we'll collect his girlfriend. What was her name? Was it Diane or whatever it was?
Yeah.
No, Liz, that was it.
Liz.
Because Diane was played by Jasper Carrot's daughter, wasn't she?
Yeah. Is she around these days, or she passed away or something? Because it's like she...
No, she is around. She was on Wonder Woman.
Oh, was she?
Yeah, she was. And unless you looked, you would never recognise her. She
Oh, of course. No, sorry. I wasn't thinking of her because she was in The Office. Yeah, she's, let's say, ballooned a little bit, hasn't she?
Yeah. A little bit. But yeah, it's they kept coming up with the plan, didn't they? And then it kept changing it every time. But every one of those versions, it was kill Philip, bang, sorry Philip.
Get Mum, get Liz over to Winchester and have a nice quick pint or a cup of tea or something, whatever it's going to say.
Yeah, it's just great humour. It's a great laugh. I love the movie. It does have those zombie, horror elements in there. It's just
it's certainly got the gore in it because
movie.
It has a very similar scene. I think they probably pay homage to it because obviously when the guy gets pulled apart out the window. Dylan Moran's character in the movie, he played David, who was going out with Diane. Yeah, and had a secret
crush on Liz.
Yeah, crush on Liz.
Yeah,
and when he's pulled apart the way he is, it reminds me that back when Day of the Dead came out, there's a terrific scene at the end of the movie when a character is pulled apart by the zombies from his arms and his legs, and his guts spill out all over the floor.
And that's exactly what
happens to him. And then they're all there sitting there munching away. So I think maybe they got that idea from there. But yeah.
Maybe, yeah.
Really good. And obviously the introduction to this movie.
Yeah, great movie.
And he's on about Clyde from Every Which Way But Loose as well and stuff like that. It's just...
Yeah. But then at the end where Nick Frost is kept in the garage, in the shed.
In the shed, yeah.
And he goes and starts playing games, and it's like, telling him...
Do you remember what game it was?
No. Wasn't it Halo?
Time Splitters.
Was it Time Splitters?
I think so, yeah.
Halo.
No, it wasn't. I don't think it was. I think it was Time Splitters because it was some of the imagery, and I maybe Google it, but I always thought it was Time Splitters. But but yeah, no, really, yeah, very well loved movie that, and I think the Americans really love Shaun of the Dead. They really took to it.
It was actually Time Splitters too.
There you go.
Thinking about it, that's what it was.
Yeah. So, any more to say about that?
No, not really.
Okay, so my number one was a film that when it was in the cinema, you had people running out of the showing, apparently being sick. They were in all sorts of ways distressed from this movie. Vickers didn't like it. It was a great book, and I have read the book, and the film, to me, I think still holds up. And some people may not, but The Exorcist will always be my number one horror movie.
Oh God, yeah, The Exorcist.
And I watched it again the other night, so I picked up the box set recently.
And a classic theme tune as well.
Well, yeah, Tubular Bells from Mike Oldfield, which is used just at the beginning of the movie in one little scene, which originally was going to be Leo Schifrin's score.
Yeah.
But that was scrapped and that was put in place of it. But the whole story of Reagan's possession in this movie and the battle with good and evil with Father Merrin, and some of the scenes I still think could sort of feel pretty disgusting in a way.
Yeah.
Even though you had like a sort of 13-year-old child putting and thrusting a crucifix between her legs. And God, I was watching how they made this movie. There was a great documentary on the latest Blu-ray that I picked up with some fascinating behind-the-scenes camera video footage without sound, because they couldn't really do the sound. Because obviously, if you probably do it these days, but this literally, he was behind the cameraman recording footage of them filming and playing out the movie, and it's quite incredible to see how it all come together like that. Yeah, and she come across still as a young, innocent child, but the way that William Friedkin gave her the direction to come across as this possessed, horrifying looking possessed girl is quite incredible. We have some famous scenes. We obviously had the green vomit, which a lot of people remember, and in the director's cut, which I've got that as well. There's a scene that wasn't put in the original movie where she comes down the stairs like a spider. Yeah, have you heard of that at all? I have. And everything about it from the beginning with the Ouija board with Captain Heidi, and it's just such a terrifying film, and I think it's still a terrifying movie in my eyes. I know the world changes with special effects and CGI, but the practical effects and the makeup in this movie are quite outstanding, and I don't think have been seen since. It gave me nightmares the first time I saw it. I had her on the end of my bed while I was having dreams. It did affect me that much, and not a lot of films can do that. It's what can I say? The sequel was poor with Richard Burton, but then came Exorcist 3, which is based on the book Legion, which is a fantastic horror / detective in a way. Yeah. And that is a worthy sequel in its own rights. There are a couple of other movies that I've got in the box set which I've never seen, which is one's a prequel apparently. But this movie just still holds up, and for me will always be one of the most terrifying movies I've ever seen. Yeah.
Yeah, you see, because this is one of the interesting things, isn't it, about horror? As in, you've got the one extreme, which is the horrifying, terrifying, making you feel sick sort of side. And then you've got the other side, which is the, sort of like Shaun of the Dead sort of side, I suppose, which is the complete juxtaposition of it. Yeah. But still horror. And it's such a wide genre to include all of the other films, and, because there's similarities, but there's differences in all of them as well.
I think a lot of things now that come from this sort of movie are still used today. The idea of having, when you're possessed, an image imprinted off an arm to say, "I need help." Yeah. Which was used in Amityville 2: The Possession. Obviously, when in Reagan, in Exorcist, it was across her tummy. And what was even more sometimes frightening was when she was in the hospital having the brain scan, because that is so archaic the way that was done those days in the 70s. And the noise of the clacking noise of the camera shot of the X-ray going bang 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 when she's strapped so tightly because she's not allowed to move is awful, really is. So there you have it. That will always be my number one horror movie of all time. Nothing will take its place.
Well, you never know. Never say
There are-
never.
Well, if we're going to go for a few shout-outs,
Yeah, I could do that.
so some of you, I'm sure. Well, I actually got the Omen and the Thing is in this list,
Yeah.
but also I got Dawn of the Dead, which I had to mention Giorgio Romero's Dawn of the Dead.
I've got Night of the Living Dead and Dawn of the Dead.
Yeah, Nightmare on Elm Street,
Yeah.
Friday the 13th,
Yeah.
and The Evil Dead as well.
Yeah. Well, in my also shouted out list, because I've got a few, I've got Night of the Living Dead, The Evil Dead 2, Dead by Dawn, Carrie, It, Invasion of the Body Snatchers, Reanimator,
Yeah,
Dawn of the Dead, The Exorcist, 28 Days and 28 Weeks Later, Poltergeist, American Werewolf in London, The Shining, Zombieland, the Hammer horror movies generally, and Psycho as well.
and now also to add to that list, I would say every Dario Argento Italian horror movie there is,
Yeah.
from Inferno to Tenebrae to Deep Red, and then other zombie flicks like Zombie Flesh Eaters, which obviously I've talked about before a few episodes ago because I picked up a load of DVD Blu-rays and stuff like that. And even The Burning, which I picked up very recently this week, which I got I finally got all my 4. I did the deal on Zavvi with buy one get one free with Arrow Blu-rays, so they were coming in dribs and drabs. So The Burning turned up the other day, and obviously American Werewolf in London, which is coming out soon as well. That was another great film, and really, if I was to write the list down to the documentary that I was that we were talking about, the Kickstarter I was doing,
Yeah.
which is getting its premiere soon actually now at in Hollywood, and there's so many movies. We could be here all night talking,
Yeah,
but as it happens, I've got dinner to have. I've got a bag to pack at some point, and I've got a lot of things to do.
Yeah.
So should we call it a night?
I think that's a good idea. I think we've gone through a good few moves. I've missed one, Amityville.
Yeah, because I mentioned Amityville 2, The Possession, which is actually the sequel is a really good movie. If you've not seen the sequel, yeah.
And also the Ring movies as well. I quite like those.
Oh yeah, of course, yeah, the Ring movies.
Yeah.
And also the if they're going to be horror, Final Destination movies.
Yeah.
And
And I Know What You Did Last Summer movies.
Yeah.
So many different good examples. And we haven't also mentioned like the more tongue-in-cheek Scream movies as well, which satires the whole of the genre, but in a good way.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah.
It makes no bones about playing on all of the tropes of the genre.
Yeah, because we could be here all day long with all sorts of things like that, and it goes on and on and on, doesn't it? And again,
We could.
As much as there is all sorts of other genres of movies, horror is always there near the top of the list.
Having said that, though, some of these movies, there are things that you could do to protect yourself. First off, if your child gets stuck in a TV, try turning the channel off and then switch your TV off. Secondly, if the house says, "Get out," and starts bleeding blood, maybe don't stay. There's a couple of good tips for people.
Yeah, and always actually, if you watch Scream, there's loads of tips in there, isn't there?
There is as well.
Why do two people go in the forest together? Don't go in the forest. It's bad. It's dark. Don't.
Yeah.
Because Jason's out there waiting to rip your guts apart.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, so anyway, I hope you've enjoyed this. This is a bit of a different one, and we'll be back not too long. I'm away for about a week, so this will be filling in the between bit. So
We will, and then we'll be getting into the silly season.
yeah, because I've just downloaded Gears today, actually,
Yeah.
and I've been playing. Well, we're not here to talk games, but yeah, I've been playing a little bit of Spider-Man just to have a look at New York.
Yeah, just to find out where you're staying, isn't it?
I did. I found it. And I actually played a bit of Metal Gear Solid last night as well,
Wow.
because that's just gone on Game Pass.
Is that a Phantom Pit?
Yeah, it's 2 and 3.
Yeah. Oh, 2 and 3.
Yeah. So I started playing, because 2 starts off in the tanker and then goes to the oil platforms.
Yeah.
So I was playing that last night for a bit. That was great.
Cool.
Well worth it. Well worth the play. And those games, I must admit, I completed them very well, but they are tough in those. The way you got to use those controllers, I'm going to say.
Yeah.
Anyhow,
back in the good old days.
Yeah. Oh God, yeah. Back in the good old days. Anyway, I need to go and have some food. So anyway, obviously you can catch me at Twitter at Steve007. Best place for me any day of the week. And Xbox is Steve07. PSN ID is the real Steve07. There is a movie soundtrack channel I've been putting together with vinyl. That's Steve07 as well. And Haydn, do you want to finish your stuff off?
Yep, all my contact details are HERJ UK on basically all platforms. Also, to support the show, you can subscribe to my Twitch channel. I am trying to do stuff 3 or 4 nights a week. And I'm there for a chat if anybody wants to come along and say hello as well. Also, there is our Facebook group that we also have our main Twitch channel. We also have our website as well. And you can also email the podcast at popculturegamers.co.uk.
So, as ever and always, it's a good night from me.
And it's a good night from him.
Good night.
Good night.
You are about to witness history in the making.